right. 6 o'clock in the evening on a Sunday. And we played our first session of Kingdom Death Monster People of the Dream Keeper yesterday. And I had done a stream over the winter break about Kingdom Death and how much I enjoy it and how excited I was to start playing it again this year. There had been a couple of requests that maybe I could do a recap of the sessions as they go, since I wasn't going to bother setting up like cameras to stream the miniatures and all that kind of stuff. So that is what I'm going to do right now. So we played IRL, 4 people. My friend Steven, Stonewolfen from the Discord server, and then RTK from the Discord server. Hey, what's up? And we all met up in person. We didn't get started until about 1 o'clock, and then we played until about 5 o'clock. So we played for about 4 hours, which is about as long as an IRL Dungeons & Dragons game, essentially. And it was very interesting because we hadn't played, it turned out, in like 5 years or something. That was the last time we all got together to play Kingdom Death, something crazy like that. And I don't want to say that, like all friendships are like this, but for a lot of us, like we hadn't seen Steven in years, it felt like. I think he and I hung out a couple times last year, but we hadn't all gotten together, the 4 of us, in about 5 years since the last time that we played Kingdom Death. I think maybe we might have been at one party together at the same time, but it's hard to remember. It was like no time had passed at all. It was like no time had passed at all. So just, if you have been doing a lot of online gaming because of pandemic and everything, and you're like, I wonder if it's what it's like to do gaming in person, it's good. It's really good. Yeah, so it was nice to get back together, and we just vibed, We just got back together, we hung out, we had a good time. It was really nice. It was really nice. There was a lot of laughs, a lot of joking around, and we were terrified. Kingdom Death definitely delivered a terrifying experience. So the hardest part was not getting back together, because that was easy. It was remembering how to play the game. So we ended up spending probably the first hour just rereading the basic rules and kind of remembering how to play the game. And then after we did that, we started to build the new systems. So I went ahead and I built the new miniatures, but whenever you fight a monster, you have to build the AI deck for the monster. You have to set up the field, where you're going to fight the monster. It's called the showdown. You got to build all that kind of stuff. And then when you start a campaign, you always have to read from this mysterious, dark, glossy book that shows all my greasy fingerprints. I'm a real greasy dude. I'm a greasy boy. And anyways, we had to read from this book. So in the beginning of the book, Poots has like a picture of the orb of people that is held up by the gambler, who is the Dream Keeper in this campaign. And there's a lot of, if you follow like the Kingdom Death Project and all that, this campaign especially feels like the creator of the game, Adam Poots. It definitely feels like a passion project for him. There's a lot of like subtlety. There's a lot of like Easter eggs. There's a lot of like just weird, cool things that if you've been following the project for a long time, it's really, really fun. I say this to people when they play Smash Brothers. Smash Brothers is like a love letter to Nintendo fans. This kind of felt like a little bit of a love letter to supporters of Kingdom Death. And the fact that it's called the Gambler's Chest, and a lot of people, they kind of view Kickstarter as a gamble, right? You put a lot of money down, and maybe you get good stuff, and maybe you don't get good stuff. So that's the whole Gambler's Chest thing. But then very literally, as we played the game, it was revealed that there was a gambler's chest as the beginning of the campaign, as there's a gambler's chest. And then the gambler, right, is what the monster is called, but then he's also called the Keeper of Dreams, and then Adam Poots' dream is to finish this project and continue to make it grow and tell all these incredible stories. And so right away, you kind of see those parallels, and you could see the love that went into it. It was very, 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 very cool. And there's a really sweet like intro bit there before he crushes your soul into pieces. So then it kind of gives you like a heads up on the story and the adventure and what you could do with this book. This book is like a DLC bundle. So it introduces a lot of new mechanics to the game that don't exist in the core game. So if you've never played Kingdom Death Monster core game, you should not try to play. You should not try to play the Gambler's Chest right away. Learn the regular game first, because it was a ton of shit that we had to like learn. We did not get very far into the game because it was just so much new stuff that we had to learn. So new things that they introduced to the game was narrative sculptures, which are associated with special characters, basically named NPCs that you can discover procedurally, randomly, and sometimes based on the story as you play through the campaign. And then there's an opportunity to potentially recruit those characters who join with some unique abilities or unique stuff that kind of sets them apart from homegrown survivors, essentially. So that was very, very cool. We haven't run into any of those yet because, again, we did not make it very far. They introduced something called patterns and seed patterns, and this is essentially every time you play the game, in addition to the normal crafting recipes that you always have access to. So think of it like Monster Hunter, right? We all have access to the same crafting recipes every time we play Monster Hunter. Imagine if there were, in addition to rare monster drops, if there were rare recipe drops. So you have your standard Monster Hunter gear that everyone can build, and then if you're super duper lucky, you can get a very rare recipe drop that you then have to go and find the things for that piece of equipment. And it's not guaranteed that every time you play through Monster Hunter, or every person who plays Monster Hunter is going to get that particular pattern or that recipe to drop. That's what that system introduces. It introduces like extremely rare recipes that you might never find the materials to make, because everything in the game is randomly generated, procedurally generated. So that's a whole thing that we had to introduce. I had explained in the overview video over winter break that every year there is one monster hunt that represents all of the monster hunts for that entire year, and it's sort of the apex of like all your effort for the whole year. They have added to that something called encounters. So when you're out hunting the monster, there is a small chance that you may be attacked by weaker monsters on your way to hunt down the big monster that you were looking for. And so that's a new element that we're going to have to worry about on top of everything else. They added a system called the Scouts of Death. And so basically, normally you only send a party of 4 hunters, but now you can send a party of 5 hunters. The 5th hunter is always the scout, and the scout does not have as much gear as the regular characters, and it only has 4 pieces of gear instead of 9 pieces of gear. But that is because they have the ability to run away from fights, and if they successfully run away from fights, even if you TPK, as long as the scout escapes, you get to keep a lot of your progress from that failed hunt. So they're kind of like, they sort of make the game easier, but they're just as vulnerable as everyone else, like, during the game. It's sort of like if you had an NPC in one of my games not protected by the B team, right? Like, we don't want that NPC to die because they're very important, but shit happens. So that's kind of cool. They also added something called Wanderers, and Wanderers goes hand in hand with narratives, and that's when you're out hunting and exploring. You could randomly run into special characters who could join your thing. New monsters, which are featured throughout this campaign, the people of the Dreamkeeper. Ark survivors, which is essentially a new type of survivor that is smarter than the average Kingdom Death caveman. Most of the Kingdom Death people they're very like biblical humans, like made from stone and clay and given life, and they don't, have schools and formal education, and they just survive in the darkness and hope for the best. Ark survivors have bigger brains essentially and are able to learn, and they have a hive mind almost. They have a better respect for communal learning. And so every Ark survivor contributes what they know to the society's combined knowledges. And so the children of those people and then adopted people into the community and found people that join the community, they can then have the opportunity to learn from other survivors. So that's a really cool addition. And they do that with a new system called Lumi, which is essentially brain points. There were already a type of brain points, but this is like your intelligence score essentially. Now comes into play, which is pretty fascinating. And then of course there's the campaign in general. And then the book is set up with different sections that talk about all of the different new things in greater detail. And then it also tells you like, all right, this is what you're gonna do to start the adventure, right? And so we went ahead and did that. We were playing through the campaign that specifically uses everything from this campaign. So if you decide that you're gonna run the campaign, the book tells you like, all right, you're gonna do the Dreamkeeper. Get ready. This is what you're going to need, and this is what you're going to do. And you start off with the prologue, and the prologue is written like a children's storybook, if a children's storybook was from hell, essentially. It even has the whole Once Upon a Time shit to get things going. And it says, once upon a time, in a place of carved stone faces, a monster ate a tremendous meal. Its belly was so full that it could not move, so it slumbered. When the monster had digested, it awoke. It raised its curious head into the wind, and it smelled the despair of people stirring somewhere in the unbroken darkness. The monster licked its blood-caked snout and set off to investigate. The monster walked unhurried through the darkness, following the scent. It grew hungrier and hungrier as the scent got stronger. Its powerful heart pounded with joy as it came across a great chest. The box reeked with delicious promise. The monster greedily nosed it open. Inside were humans, and how delectable they would be if only their organs were bursting with fear. The monster toyed with its morsels, tasting their terror-tinged sweat as they skittered between its great big teeth. It laughed as they tickled it with their scrabbling hands, climbing to escape. And then, every page has this just horrific art. Here's the Crimson Crocodile, just eating people up. It's just very spooky. There was one mouthful that did not taste of terror. She was not tender with despair. She reached between the monster's grasping fingers and freed a shard of stone. She took a deep breath and bellowed into the darkness, hoping her cries would reach someone. Somewhere, in the place of stone faces, people raised a lantern to illuminate their doom. They knew they could not survive, yet they struggled just the same. These are the ones that taste best, thought the monster, delighted. So then we had to set up for the fight. So we had to make 4 characters. My character was a lady named Virginia. Gender is very important in this game for breeding more people. So I don't know. Hashtag problematic. They got gender in the game, but it's important for the breeding of new people for the civilization essentially. So we did 2 dudes and we did 2 ladies. My character was named Virginia. She was a lady. All of us started wearing a diaper, essentially a cloth wrap around our privates, and we had a sharp rock, and that's it. The sharp rocks are called founding stones, and they're a very shitty item, but you can permanently destroy it by throwing it in desperation. And if you throw it, permanently destroying it, it is a guaranteed hit that causes a guaranteed critical hit. So they have their uses, especially when you are literally naked fighting a monster with nothing else. We have no healing items, no armor, no actual weapons. You start the game completely naked, just fighting for your life. You've been essentially, these people were birthed from this mysterious chest. They've been biblically alive for minutes, and all of those minutes have been spent being tormented and eaten by this crocodile. And then one of them says, fuck all that, and that encourages the others to fight for their lives, essentially. Whew. Alright, so the game then tells you how you have to build the AI deck for the monster. It says monster setup, tells you which abilities it has and all that. It tells you how to set up the board. The blue spaces are where you can start. The red and green spaces are where the monster starts. This particular monster, the Crimson Crocodile, let me bring up some stuff about Crimson Crocodile to have in the background, I guess. Alright, so I'm at the Kingdom Death Wiki, which I didn't realize there was a thing, so that was kind of helpful, that there's finally like some online support for the game. Let's see. So the Crimson Crocodile, it's got all these sick moves. There's no cards to like click on to tell us what they do. Let me see if I can find some art of the Crimson Crocodile. Maybe I saw some really good painted Crimson Crocodiles on this one painting group I'm a part of. But anyways, I'll open it up. There we go. So this is our boy, the Crimson Crocodile. You'll notice that his back is made out of fingies, and it's got a little tail, and he's very goofy looking. It's like a weird eel, fish, crocodile, centipede kind of monster. So it turns out that this monster's entire fighting style is about causing bleed, which is a status where you gain bleed tokens, and if you get 5 bleed tokens, you just die. You just die, because you bleed out. The more bloody you are, the more happy this creature is. This creature also specializes in fear attacks. So it attacks your mind to try and make you afraid. There is a stat in the game that is called insanity, and the more insane you are, the better you can endure the Kingdom Death, essentially. So the more insane you are, the better. And this guy's job is to wear down your insanity until it is 0, at which point his special ability triggers and you become terrorized. Once you are terrorized, you can't use survival, which is their version of hero points or inspiration, essentially. And all of his attacks start to do really fucked up stuff, including instantly killing you. His basic attack, if he uses it against a terrified target, that target is instantly devoured. They die instantly. It doesn't matter how well you're doing, you're just instantly devoured. So it's kind of crazy. So the pool of blood that he is in at the beginning of the game is a terrain feature, and just like 4th edition D&D, all of the terrain in Kingdom Death actually does shit. So what the pool does is you can go up to the pool and you could drink the blood from the pool, and 80% of the time it's going to give you insanity to drink the blood from this pool. 10% of the time, it's going to kill you. And 10% of the time, it will give you insanity and make you go crazy with a disorder called immortal. And immortal is actually a disorder that is good in so much as your character is so overconfident that they are in fact immortal that anytime their body would take damage, their mind takes damage instead. So remember how I said this guy likes to attack your mind, but he also has them big old teeth and he tries to eat you and everything else like that. So there's always going to be a pool when you fight this crocodile, and the pool will almost always give you insanity and good chance of making you think that you are immortal so that you could maybe survive these attacks. So we were like, okay, let's try and beat the shit out of this guy. We're going to open up with a critical hit. So we're going to just start the campaign off right. So I threw my dagger, my stone, my piece of rock right away. I hit this dude in the back. It shattered against his back. And another mechanic of this monster is coagulating blood. So if you're familiar with Monster Hunter, there's a lot of monsters like the catfish monster from Monster Hunter World, where it makes, and then the Choo Choo Train T-Rex, the Baroth or whatever, you know how they put like mud armor on and stuff like this? This guy, if you wound him in specific areas, he will then bleed out and the blood will clot and create armor. So, okay, so follow me here, right? So when that happens, this creature is huge, so it takes up 3x3 space on the board. So when he has that armor on, he becomes invincible to all attacks unless you attack a specific part of his body. And when that armor forms, it tells you where on the miniature you have to hit him. It's only one spot usually on the miniature where you can hit him. Now, that spot, because it's essentially now the only weak spot he has, is easier to damage. It's just really, really fucking cool. So it's like forcing us to constantly be on the move to try to, like, when he starts bleeding out and the blood turns into armor, we had to keep repositioning ourselves to get into the right spot, to stab his weak spots, to break the scabs, like the scab armor off of him, to continue fighting him normally. So that's just one part. That's one part of the fight. Now, when you attack these monsters, they have a hit location deck. And every time you attack, you roll for accuracy to see how many times you hit them. Because everything has speed. So you attack a certain number of times when you attack, based on your speed. And then each of your attacks has a chance to hit. That's your accuracy. Only after you confirm if you hit or not do you find out what happens next. So let's say you attack twice and you manage to hit both times. Now you draw from the monster's hit location 2 different locations, and one of the and you look at them and you figure out which one you want to attack first, and then which one you attack second, and so on and so forth. Why do you need to worry about what order you attack the monster in? Because some of the locations that you might attack on the monster will trigger counterattacks or movement or some other kind of reaction. So imagine a D&D solo monster that literally every time you try to hit the monster, it has a chance to perform a reaction. Not just like once per round like a Paragon monster, but like every time it's attacked, it could bust out a reaction move on you. It's crazy. So one of the things that this crocodile likes to do is roll around. So it'll roll like 30 feet to the left or like 30 feet to the right. And so if you attack it and miss and it rolls away, now it's not within range for your other attack to hit it. So you'd have to decide, is that worth it, or do I want to attack it a different part of its body? Sometimes when you attack the body, there are opportunities to critically hit that body part. And critically hitting the body part can either cause extra drops to occur, a la Monster Hunter, or it can cause permanent debilitating effects, which I believe is also a mechanic of Monster Hunter, where like we could have chopped off this dude's tail permanently, and then for the rest of the fight, if he got a card that involved his tail, that attack or that maneuver might not work anymore because his tail got cut off. Or if we damaged his mouth, he might deal less damage with his bites for the rest of the fight. So like getting critical hits in this game is super important because it can permanently debilitate the monster, making it easier for the rest of the fight. Sometimes critically hitting the monster is bad. Not this monster, but the kind of iconic monster, the White Lion. If you critically hit him in the balls, you actually chop off his balls, you get them as a drop, but now whoever cut off his balls, he targets that person for the rest of the fight and does extra damage against that person until he kills that person or he dies. So wow, kind of crazy. So we're fighting this guy. We open up with a critical hit. He gets the scab armor. We run in. We're kicking his ass. So then RTK is like, come at me, bro. Come at me, bro. So he's like trying to tank it. And the reason he's tanking it is because these ARC survivors have something called knowledges. And these are personality traits that if you do certain things during a fight, you can level up that personality. And RTK's thing was getting hit. So if he got hit enough times, he would level up his personality and gain more abilities related to tanking hits. My character's thing was insanity. So more insanity I got and this was all randomly determined when we started the game. So he's like, come at me, bro, come at me. So it rushes towards him and tries to bite him, is attacking him and all that. So on its first turn, it rushes up, it attacks him, it bites him, it hits him twice with his bite. One rips off his fucking diaper and damages his dick. Doesn't like hurt his dick, just damages his dick. The second attack, it bites his legs, and he gets 2 out of the 5 bleed tokens that are required to die. So now he's bleeding from his legs, and his armor's been ripped off. He's completely naked. He's just got a fucking sharp rock in his hand. He's standing toe-to-toe with this creature. So then in the next round, the monster decides to target Steven's character with its attack, and it rushes after Steven's character. Now, Steven's character is like, whoa, help me out, guys. But the monster starts pushing him further away. This is, by the way, it's a fucking board game, guys. The monster starts pushing him further and further away from the group and pins him up against the edge of the map. Now, the rest of us cannot reach the monster, but we can reach the pool. So while Steven is being fucking brutalized by this crocodile, the 3 of us run to the pool and just start drinking. Just start gobbling down this blood water. Just guzzling it down. Hoping against hope that one of us will gain enough insanity to survive its fear attacks and maybe even get the immortal disorder. Now, Steven is like a really cool guy, but you could tell that he was very upset that we essentially just left him to die, right? Left him as bait to die. So while we're over there drinking and he's getting the shit kicked out of him, eventually I did manage to roll the nat 10 that was needed to get the immortal condition, and then I drank enough blood that I became insane and I activated the immortal condition, and at that point I would be able to tank like 4 hits. So I was like, now I'm going to go fuck this monster up. But by that point, the crocodile had bullied Steven's character to death. So it got a move from its attack deck called Tumble and Roll, I think it was. It's basically like a crocodile when they grab somebody and they just start rolling and spinning. It was an AoE that targeted every adjacent space except for 2. And then instead of being discarded, the card gets placed back on top of the deck. And every time the card is drawn and played, the damage and the number of attacks gets higher and higher. So once this thing starts its death roll, Like, it could spiral out of control, like Whitney's milk tank in Pokemon, with rollout. Like, every round that it repeats this attack gets stronger and stronger and stronger. So Steven's like, I'm gonna die, but if you guys don't do something, all of us are gonna die. So at that point, we had to prioritize running up there and hitting the monster because, as I explained in a previous video, when you damage a monster, its hit points are its AI deck. So this thing is stuck in an endless death roll now. So the only way to deactivate that is to get close enough to deal some damage. So if we run up and none of us are able to hurt this monster, then we're all adjacent to its AoE attack that gets stronger and stronger every round. It was fucking terrifying because, again, no armor. I don't have any equipment. I am literally scratching it with my nails and biting it with my teeth. I have no weapons. And so we're just like, fuck it, we got to do it. So we all run up to this monster, and we're all taking swings, and I was just having a great session. I managed to land the hit that did the damage that caused it to discard its thing, but then that caused a blood armor to appear from the wound and cover the whole creature in blood armor. But the one place that the creature could be hit was where Steven's almost dead character was standing. So that Steven's character staggers to his feet and fucking swings on the creature, hits it in its location, shatters its armor, and then the next card that the crocodile got was attack the person that just damaged you. So it grabs him and starts shaking him in his mouth. He's got 4 bleed tokens now. His leg is broken, his ribs are broken, and then it throws him across the map and chases after him, and the rest of us are just left there unable to do anything. Then this creature, instead of finishing him off, it flips upside down and crawls towards him on its fingers to activate a fear effect. He gets terrified, and then the creature bites at him, deliberately missing to cause more fear, and then he took enough damage that he had no insanity. He had to roll for brain trauma, and he died from fear. So all the shit that this creature did to him, he ended up dying from fear because it bullied him to death. So at that point, we were like, oh shit. And the creature still had 5 health at that point, which in D&D is not a lot, but in Kingdom Death, 5 health is quite a bit of health. So then, especially when you have rocks and diapers, and it turns around and it's like, who's next? And then it comes towards us. Now we understand the creature's movements a little bit. And again, we don't read anything ahead. We don't read the monster decks or anything. We do everything blind when we play Kingdom Death. Because we want to learn the monsters just like a Dark Souls boss, right? We want to learn them as we go, learn their patterns, learn their behavior. We don't want to read everything ahead of time and have it spoiled for us. So we learn that this thing, likes to roll left and right. So we're trying very hard to never be on the side of this creature in case it decides to roll left and right. And so we got 2 people behind it, 1 person in front of it, and it's rolling back and forth, and we're just trying our best. And then it uses a fear attack on me, but this is how fucking deep the design goes. This is the craziest thing. So then the creature tries to use a fear effect on me, but the card that the creature uses, it says if the target of this attack has the immortal disorder, instead of frightening them, it makes them go into a frenzy. And so Frenzy is kind of like the Barbarian Rage of Kingdom Death. So I got a +1 to my speed and a +1 to my strength. So even though I have no weapon, I'm now furious, right? And hitting much harder and hitting more and all that. So then the creature's like, oh shit, is that how it's going to be? And I'm just boxing this thing. The others are just stabbing it over and over again. It was fucking crazy. And then it got a hold of Stonewolfen's character, and I believe it broke her ribs. She, from her broken ribs, has a -1 to her speed permanently. That means she will always make 1 less attack per round forever, no matter what. So we're getting fucked up real fast. It's attacking me. I'm using my insanity to soak the hits because of my immortal disorder. But once my insanity drops below 3, I won't be insane anymore, and I'll start taking normal hits like everybody else. We are getting absolutely savaged by this creature. Steven is dead, and finally, we get the final kill on this monster. And we were like, our hearts were beating so fast. And again, this is a board game. Our hearts are beating so fast at the end of this fight. And it was like dudes winning a sports ball game. We're like cheering. We're fucking high-fiving over the table. We're hugging each other. Like, we're tears almost streaming down the face. We're so relieved when we finally kill this monster. Oh. So then, after you kill the monster, you have to read 3 more stories that sort of trigger the beginning of the game. And we don't have a ton of time because I got to do mythic prep tonight and everything else. But suffice to say, the premise is, after that happens, let me see if I could find a picture of the gambler to show you guys. Where is the gambler? Ah, here he is. Okay. So then we go, oops, let me see. There we go. So then we go to find, we're like, what the fuck are we going to do? Like, there's only 3 of us. We were just born 5 minutes ago. The world is full of darkness. There's a hard, like we got this monster. So we pick up the crocodile, start dragging it through the darkness, and then we sense, like, light and safety up ahead. We hear this sort of like sonorous like storm of like snoring, and when we follow it, we find this massive statue of a man, statue question mark, and he is asleep, and then he's holding on his back this massive sphere of just people, and they're all asleep, as you can see in this miniature right here. And in the game, this guy is like kaiju sized, right? So we go here and we realize that this area is devoid of monsters. Like, there is no monsters. And there is moisture that collects in the folds of this guy's robes. So there's like a source of water. And inside his robes are essentially like hollow areas, like caves. And then we decide we're going to live inside this dude's like clothes. Like, we're gonna live in the shadow of this giant stone kaiju. This is where we're gonna live. And then other people stumble in from the darkness, and then we had to do a roll for that, and so we got 9 more people that came to join us. So now we have a total of 12 people. And then RTK, he went and got ye old spreadsheet from Detroit, and we had to name our population. So he named the population, not the population, but he named we decided to name the settlement Vegas, because our last settlement was named Detroit. And since this is the Gambler campaign, we decided we would name the settlement Vegas. And we should actually have way more people than that. I don't know why that's displaying the way it's displaying, but we are up to, I believe, what's 3 plus 9? 12? Yeah. So we have 12 people total. Now, as these people showed up, we then had to figure out what to do next and figure out how to communicate with each other. So we started to like speak and make up a language, but it was really hard to hear each other over the endless snoring of the hundreds of bodies in the sphere. And so our settlement developed sign language alongside its regular language, which is a new addition to the game. There didn't used to be sign language in the game. So now we have a means to communicate silently in the game, and this actually has mechanical benefits in the game, because there is an action called Encourage, where you can shout to an ally to be like, get up, keep fighting, and then they can get up from the prone condition. But if you, which is called knockdown in this, and otherwise you lose your turn if you're knocked down. So this is like a really good thing to do. So you can like shout to people, encourage them to get up, but if they are deaf, they can't hear you. However, These guys with their sign language developed another action called the fist bump, where you just fist pound in the air and your ally sees that, and because you have sign language, they realize that you're encouraging them, and then they can stand up even if they are deaf, as long as they're not blind. So now we have like two different ways to like encourage people during fights. Now I thought that was kind of cool. So as we develop language, we start to unlock the ability to develop our civilization even further, and that's how we get access to something called innovations. So innovations is stuff like pottery and pictographs and hovels and things like that, like ammonia, like figuring out like, oh, we could boil piss and get ammonia. We can use that to disinfect and to clean and to do all sorts of other stuff. It's the base of all science in Kingdom of Death. And every time you gain a new innovation, you also unlock more potential innovations that can be drawn from your innovation deck. And all of it is, of course, random as you kind of draw from the deck, but you can guide your civilization in a different path each time you play, depending on what stuff you decide to pick. So it's crazy. Also, because Steven's character died, we as a civilization had to decide, what do we do about people who die? And this is when I played through Cult of the Lamb. I was like, hey, Cult of the Lamb, it's like Kingdom Death Chibi Edition. Your options are graves, ... or cannibalism. So graves is mechanically the strongest choice and the best choice, just like it is in Cult of the Lamb. But we decided that since drinking like all that blood is what made us win the fight and saved us, we decided to embrace cannibalism. So we we decided, yeah, okay, we'll eat Steven, and as a reward for eating Steven's character, whose name was Colin, we got to also get a free crafting resource as leftovers from Colin's cannibalized body. And we added that to the resources we got from destroying the crocodile, which we got 8 resources from defeating the crocodile, which was pretty fucking cool. So we got 4 basic resources, which can drop from any monster, and then we got 4 crocodile resources that just drop from the crocodile. So now we're a bunch of cannibals who can speak, and we can do sign language. And then we start to develop like personalities a little bit, for lack of a better term. It's called philosophies, which is a new system that they added to the game for this expansion. And so Stonewolfen, his character volunteered for the event for philosophies, and so his philosophy is survivalism. And as a side effect of embracing survivalism, his character became selfish and now has a special move where if he would be hit by an attack, he can grab an adjacent ally and use them as a meat shield, and they have to get hit by the attack instead. That's rough. And then as you level up your philosophy, you get more and more specialized abilities for that particular philosophy. So it's like crazy deep. It's crazy deep. And then Steven activated his new character, Gordon, and then we invented scouts. And so we nominated our first scout, whose name is Link. And then my kid who was walking by, we had my kid roll for the scout initiation ritual, and they rolled the highest number you could get. And so our scout actually started out with bonus stats, which is really nice. And I even have a Kingdom Death style miniature of Link, so we're using that for Link's miniature. And it's just been really, really cool. And after we built essentially the foundations of our entire community and our entire civilization, we ran out of time to play. And so we still need to use endeavors. And endeavors are basically actions that your civilization can take. So if you've been following my Kingmaker prep, these are like kingdom actions that you take to develop your kingdom, develop your settlement. What makes graves so much better than cannibalism is with cannibalism, when someone dies, you get to turn their corpse into a resource. But with graves, when someone dies, you get extra endeavor points in memory of that person. Like the community works even harder. So like your civilization itself evolves faster if you have graves, but your hunters are stronger if you do cannibalism. So it's kind of a weird thing. Like, which is more important to you? Like, being strong in combat or being like strong in civilization and like brains. Cannibals are more focused on like immediate returns of like getting stronger, fighting, getting stronger, fighting. Whereas civilization that focuses on graves is going to be more like long term. Like, what can we achieve in the long term if we make it that far? So that's been pretty fascinating. But we have 3 endeavors because we had 3 people survive the first hunt. We're going to use those 3 endeavors to build the 3 types of workshops that you can build: the leather worker, the bone crafter, and the organ grinder. Now that is in addition to the Crimson Crockery, which is where you can turn the Crimson Crocodile drops into equipment that you can use excuse me, in the game. One thing I thought was amazing is the best item you can build from the Crimson Crocodile is called I think it's called uh, the glass flesh or the crimson flesh scythe, and basically it's a scythe weapon that if it critically hits any other locations that you haven't confirmed a hit on, also get critically hit. So you just get one critical hit, and then it critically hits through every single location on the monster, which is pretty sick. But that's like the hardest thing to make from the Crimson Crocodile. So the next time we play, which isn't going to be until February, we're going to build those remaining places. We're going to take the resources that we do have. We're going to try to fashion some better weapons. At low levels, it's honestly, in my opinion, better to hit hard and fast before you die than to hit weak and slow and then the monster has time to really ramp up and kick your ass. Some people prefer defense over offense. I think the best route is offense. We're going to try to build some ranged weapons, if possible, some throwing darts. I don't think we have the materials to build bows and arrows yet, but that would be really cool. But we definitely want to have some range, because with the Crimson Crocodile's blood armor, we have to attack certain parts of it to break the armor, and it's a hell of a lot easier to do that if we can shoot those weak spots from a distance instead of having to run up and hit those areas. Because again, the creature is 3x3. This isn't 5th edition D&D. We cannot move into the monster's space. If we move into the monster's space, we are immediately knocked down, and then the monster throws us 25 feet away. So we do not go into the monster's space. But our goal, I think, is going to be to build the remaining crafting facilities. We're going to go ahead and try to make some ranged weapons, and we're going to hunt another fucking crocodile. And then hopefully when we hunt the fucking crocodile, it goes a little bit better than the first time. And hopefully the hunt itself, which we haven't had to do a hunt yet, because we're born fighting. We're actually going to have to do a hunt, and we're going to bring the scout with us, and we're going to head out into the darkness. We're going to try to track down this crocodile and fight it. And every year we could hunt a crocodile if we wanted to. And then after you hunt a certain number of crocodiles, you can start to hunt the tier 2 crocodile, which is even fucking crazier. And then after a certain time, you can hunt the tier 3 crocodile. Now, you might say, Crash, that sounds kind of boring. You just fight a crocodile over and over again. No. There are 3 other huntable monsters in the campaign that you unlock as you proceed through the game. The next one that we will get is called, what are they called? Smog something? KDM Smog... Smog Singers. And the Smog Singers are basically like big fat mermaids. Here they are. And these big fat mermaids, they shoot poisonous smog out of their titties and their mouth. Um, they're apparently non-aggressive, and our civilization intends to hunt them down on purpose because they have valuable parts that they drop. And so we take their human-like skin and fashion it into armor, and we take their bagpipe titties and turn them into bagpipes, and we take their bones and turn them into flutes and shit. So it's very much like a society of like cannibalistic warrior bards running around. Uh, then there's a monster called the Phoenix, and the Phoenix is kind of like the late game monster that we fight. The Phoenix is a time warping monster. So it has the ability to manipulate time and space. So there's a lot of teleporting, a lot of de-aging or aging up your person. It will give you experience points during the fight, but if it gives you too many experience points, that means that you aged into dust. And if it takes away experience points, if it brings you back down to 0 experience points, that means it aged you to be a baby. And then the fourth monster that we can hunt is the post-game monster, and that is called the King. And it's basically like an entity that represents like the rulership of Kingdom Death itself. And I don't think you can kill that monster. I think you just kind of beat it up and it drops things, and then eventually it's like, you're annoying, and it like floats away. In addition to these 4 types of monsters that we can face, we also have to worry about this dude called the Butcher, who just comes by and murders people every couple of years. There's a dude called the Hand, who works for the King and dislikes the Gambler. So he's going to come by and kick the shit out of us. We got to deal with evil Santa Claus. That's right, we got to deal with evil Santa Claus at some point. Evil Santa Claus comes around to steal and eat your children. So that's a whole thing that we're gonna have to deal with, is when evil Santa comes around to eat our children. Now, I think that Santa Claus will be able to give him the children as like an offering, and then he will not fight us. But in addition to a number of insane abilities, this Santa Claus is also a master swordsman. He has a separate AI deck with his anime-inspired sword techniques, allegedly. So that's going to be a whole thing. And he even has a minion that is a little chibi elf that harries you and fucks you up during the fight. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. Then, of course, there's the finale, where we'll probably have to fight the Gambler himself when he wakes up. I don't want to spoil another campaign, but in the campaign where you worship the Dragon King, eventually you do have to face the Dragon King in battle. But the reason you have to face the Dragon King in battle is so fucking cool. I would never want to spoil it for anybody, but man, it was awesome. The People of the Dragon campaign is one of the best stories I've ever been a part of in a tabletop game, and we didn't even have a dungeon master. That's how fucking good it was. It was such a good campaign. So I'm very, very excited. We had so much fun. Our hearts were so full. It was so good to see everybody again and to hang out and to play this game that we love together. And we're just very, very excited to play it again in February. So thank you guys for listening to my recap there of what happened. I'm sure it was very rambly, and unless you've played Kingdom Death, a lot of that probably didn't make too much sense. But that was that. It was a lot of fun. All right, I'm going to take a quick break to grab something to drink, and then I'm going to come back to do some prep for Mythic Odyssey. And then at 8 o'clock, we're going to play and run some Mythic Odyssey. Monday, we've got Outlaws. Tuesday, we're going to play some more Baldur's Gate, and so on and so forth. If Kingdom Death sounds like your jam, if it sounds like something that you're really interested in, something that sounds really, really cool, I am trying to get together an online group to play via virtual tabletop. I have permission from Kingdom Death Studios to do this. We're going to be using their playtest experimental VTT. If you are familiar with Tabletop Simulator, it's very similar to that, and it would allow us to play a game of Kingdom Death online, endorsed by and like the people making the actual fucking game. So that'd be pretty cool. So I am gonna try to get a group together for that. It's either gonna be Saturday evenings or Tuesday evenings, and it wouldn't be every week. It would probably be like every 2 weeks, I'm thinking. So if that sounds like something that you would be interested in, hit me up on Discord, and once I get enough people that are interested, I'll try to put together a group that I think would be able to stick with the schedule, that could handle the psychological trauma, and would have a lot of fun hanging out together. So just throwing that out there. All right, I'll see you guys next time.